My name is Vorth Kai, and I used to be what you might call confident. You know that feeling when you're absolutely certain you're the apex predator in the galaxy? When your species has conquered 17 star systems and reduced entire civilizations to cosmic dust. Yeah, well, turns out that confidence can bite you in the thorax real hard. 3 cycles ago, the Dominion Council made what we thought was a brilliant decision. The humans had been expanding into our territory. Well, technically it was unclaimed space, but who's keeping track of technicalities when you're a galactic empire, right? These pink squishy bipeds had established 3 colonies on worlds we had our eyes on. Naturally, we did what any self-respecting warlike species would do. We declared war. The announcement came during the Grand Assembly on Vex Prime. Admiral Kraz Thul, our most decorated military commander, stood before the gathered masses with his 4 arms spread wide, his voice booming through the arena. Citizens of the Dominion, these humans dare to claim what is rightfully ours. They mock our ancient rights with their pitiful settlements. The crowd roared approval. I was there, serving as a junior intelligence officer, and I'll admit I got caught up in the excitement. These humans seemed so fragile, so technologically inferior. Their ships looked like metal cans held together with hope and desperation. Their weapons were crude projectile systems that fired chunks of metal. Meanwhile, we had plasma cannons, energy shields, and ships that could reduce planets to rubble. What could possibly go wrong? The first engagement took place near the Kepler 442 system. Our battle fleet, comprised of 50 heavy cruisers and 200 fighter craft, approached the human colony world of New Terra. The human defense consisted of, wait for it, 12 ships. 12. I remember Commander Zikvar actually laughing over the comm channel. This will be over before the sun sets on Vex Prime, he said. The humans hailed us. A woman appeared on screen, Captain Elena Voss, according to our records. She had short brown hair and these piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through our hull plating. Unknown vessels, you are entering human colonial space. State your intentions. Admiral Kraz Thul responded with typical Dominion diplomacy. Surrender now, humans, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will make examples of your worlds that will echo through the galaxy for 1,000 years. Captain Voss was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, not a pleasant smile, the kind of smile a predator gives right before it pounces. Admiral, I appreciate the warning. Consider this our counteroffer. Go back where you came from, or we'll show you why humans don't make good victims. The audacity. Kraz Thul cut the transmission and ordered the attack. Our fighters swarmed toward the human ships, plasma bolts lighting up space like a deadly fireworks display. The humans responded with their primitive kinetic weapons, metal slugs that shouldn't have posed any threat to our advanced shielding, should being the operative word here. The first surprise came when their projectiles started punching through our shields like they were made of wet paper. Turns out these weren't ordinary metal slugs. They were depleted uranium rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed that fired from magnetic acceleration systems that made our plasma cannons look like children's toys. But that was just the appetizer. As our fighter squadrons closed in, expecting easy kills, the human ships began to move in ways that defied everything we knew about physics and common sense. They pulled maneuvers that should have turned their crews into biological paste from the G-forces involved. Later we learned about something called inertial dampening and artificial gravity technologies we'd dismissed as impossible. Commander Zikvar's flagship, the Glorious Vengeance, took a direct hit from what the humans called a kinetic kill vehicle. It was essentially a telephone pole made of tungsten, accelerated to 20% of light speed. The impact was, well, let's just say the Glorious Vengeance became the scattered debris cloud very quickly. How is this possible? Kraz Thul demanded, his 4 eyes wide with shock. Our intelligence report said they barely had interplanetary capability. I was monitoring communications from my station, and that's when we started intercepting human battle chatter. What I heard still gives me nightmares. Omega Squadron, we've got Dominion fighters on approach vector 77 Mark IV, came a calm voice. Copy that, Control. Initiating Protocol 17. Protocol 17? I frantically searched our databases. Nothing. No reference to any human military protocol by that designation. Control, are we cleared for full engagement rules? Affirmative, Omega Squadron. Command says to give them the full human welcome package. Full human welcome package? The way they said it, there was something almost cheerful about their tone. Like they were looking forward to what came next. That's when the second surprise hit us. Literally. The humans had weapons platforms we hadn't detected, probably because they were disguised as asteroids, space debris, or other innocuous objects. Suddenly our formation was taking fire from 6 different directions. But these weren't energy weapons or kinetic projectiles. They were using nuclear mines. Not nuclear warheads, nuclear mines. These things would attach themselves to our ships and then detonate, creating localized electromagnetic pulses that fried every system within a 3-kilometer radius. Our fighters started dropping like rocks, their pilots screaming over the comm channels as their life support systems failed. Admiral, I called out, my voice cracking with panic. We're detecting massive energy signatures from the human vessels. Something's powering up. What kind of energy signatures? Krasthul demanded. I stared at my readings, not believing what I was seeing. Sir, it appears to be contained stellar matter. The bridge went silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant explosions of our dying fighters. Did you just say contained stellar matter? The Admiral asked slowly. Yes, sir. They appear to be carrying miniature stars in their weapons systems. That's when Captain Voss came back on the comm channel, still wearing that predatory smile. Admiral Krasthul, I believe you're familiar with the concept of stellar engineering. We humans have gotten quite good at it. What you're seeing right now is a concentrated solar flare, artificially generated and magnetically contained. We like to call them star bursts. Impossible, Krasthul whispered. Oh, Admiral, Voss replied, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. You really haven't done your homework on humans, have you? Did you know we've been having wars with each other for over 10,000 years? We've gotten very, very good at finding creative ways to kill things. The star-burst weapons fired. I can't adequately describe what it's like to watch artificial solar flares tear through space. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time, streams of plasma moving at incredible speeds, contained by magnetic fields that bend and twist the very fabric of space around them. When they hit our heavy cruisers, the ships didn't explode so much as they simply ceased to exist. Matter converted directly to energy in brilliant flashes that could be seen from 3 star systems away. In the space of 20 minutes, our overwhelming fleet of 50 heavy cruisers was reduced to 12 damaged vessels trying desperately to retreat. 200 fighters became expanding clouds of superheated gas. And the humans. They hadn't lost a single ship. Admiral, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this conflict. Krasthul's 4 arms were shaking as he stared at the tactical display. How is this possible? They're supposed to be a primitive species. That's when we received another transmission. This time it wasn't Captain Voss. It was a human male with graying hair and a calm, professional demeanor. Dominion Fleet, this is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Terran Defense Force. You've just experienced what we call a proportional response to your unprovoked attack on our colonial territories. Proportional. Krasthul sputtered. You just destroyed 38 of our ships. Yes, Admiral Webb replied matter-of-factly. And if you'd like to see what a disproportional response looks like, I'd be happy to provide a demonstration. You see, Admiral, what you've encountered here is just our colonial defense fleet. Local militias, really. If you continue this aggression, you'll meet our actual military. The blood in my veins turned to ice water. Local militias. This overwhelming display of technological superiority was just their colonial guard. Admiral Webb continued, his tone remaining conversational and almost friendly. "Now I'm going to offer you the same choice you offered us, Admiral Kraz-Thul. Withdraw your forces from human space immediately, and we'll consider this an unfortunate misunderstanding. Continue your aggression, and we'll be forced to take more decisive action." "What kind of decisive action?" Kraz-Thul asked, though I could tell he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Well," Webb said, consulting what appeared to be a datapad, "according to our files, the Dominion has its primary shipyards in the Altair system, correct? Beautiful facilities, from what our long-range scouts tell us. It would be a shame if something happened to them." "Long-range scouts? How long had the humans been watching us?" "You're bluffing," Kraz-Thul said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Webb smiled, and it was the same predatory expression we'd seen on Captain Voss. "Tell me, Admiral, are you familiar with the concept of a stellar torpedo?" I frantically searched our databases again. Stellar torpedo, nothing. Not even theoretical references. "I'll take your silence as a no," Webb continued. "A stellar torpedo is what happens when you take a small star, let's say about the size of your sun, and accelerate it to 97% of light speed using a quantum tunneling drive. The impact creates what we like to call a localized supernova. Very effective for system-wide sterilization." The bridge was dead silent. Even the life support systems seemed to have quieted down, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. "Now," Webb said, his tone becoming almost cheerful, "you have about 6 hours to clear out of human space before our stellar torpedo reaches Altair. I'd suggest you use that time wisely." "Wait," Kraz-Thul shouted. You can't destroy an entire star system." "Can't?" Webb raised an eyebrow. "Admiral, humans have been dreaming of ways to blow up stars since we first looked up at the night sky. It took us a while to figure out the technical details, but we're nothing if not persistent. Would you like me to send you the mathematical proofs? The engineering specifications? I have them right here." I watched our sensors as the remaining human ships began to move. They weren't pursuing us or trying to finish off our damaged vessels. They were simply watching, waiting to see what we would do. It was somehow more terrifying than if they'd been actively hunting us down. "Sir," I said quietly, "recommend immediate withdrawal." Kraz-Thul looked around the bridge at his surviving officers. Every single one of them was nodding frantically. "Signal the fleet," he said finally. "Full retreat to Dominion space." As our battered ships limped away from New Terra, I couldn't stop thinking about what Admiral Webb had said. Local militias, colonial defense forces, and somewhere out there was their actual military, with weapons we couldn't even comprehend. We had declared war on humanity, thinking they were primitive, weak, and easy prey. We were about to learn just how wrong we could be. The emergency session of the Dominion High Council was, to put it mildly, a complete disaster. Picture 17 of the galaxy's most arrogant warlords trying to explain how they'd just been humiliated by what they'd assumed were primitive savages. The finger-pointing started before Admiral Kraz-Thul even finished his report. "You told us their technology was centuries behind ours," roared General Vakmore, his scales shifting from blue to angry crimson. "Stellar torpedoes? Contained solar flares? These sound like the fantasies of a desperate military commander trying to cover his incompetence." I stood in the observers section, watching this circus unfold. As the intelligence officer who'd witnessed the battle firsthand, I knew they'd eventually call on me to confirm the Admiral's account. I was not looking forward to that conversation. Supreme Commander Thexral, the Dominion's highest military authority, raised one of his 6 arms for silence. The room quieted, though you could still hear the occasional grumble of disbelief. "Agent Vorthkai," he said, his compound eyes focusing on me with uncomfortable intensity, "you monitored the human communications during this engagement. Confirm Admiral Kraz-Thul's report." I cleared my throat, wishing I was anywhere else in the galaxy. Supreme Commander, everything Admiral Kraz-Thul described is accurate. The humans demonstrated technological capabilities that exceed our current understanding of physics. Impossible, snorted Councillor Keek-Jiv. If humans possessed such advanced technology, why haven't our spy networks detected it? That was actually a good question, and one I'd been asking myself for the past 3 days. Sir, upon reviewing our intelligence files, I believe we may have been systematically deceived. The room erupted in angry chittering and growling. Supreme Commander Thex-Ral slammed his primary fist on the podium. Explain. I activated the holographic display, showing surveillance footage from various human colonies over the past several years. Notice how their ships always appear primitive when our scouts observe them. Basic hull designs, simple weapon systems, crude propulsion. The assembled commanders nodded. Now observe this, I continued, switching to combat footage from the recent battle. The same ships, but with completely different capabilities. Hull plating that reconfigures itself, weapons that emerge from concealed compartments, propulsion systems that violate known laws of physics. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You're suggesting, said General Vakmore slowly, that the humans have been deliberately appearing less advanced than they actually are. Not suggesting, sir. Confirming. I've analyzed 3 years of surveillance data. Every time one of our ships approaches a human vessel, the humans immediately switch to what appears to be their most primitive configuration. They've been making us see exactly what they wanted us to see. Supreme Commander Thex-Ral's expression darkened. How is that possible? Our sensors are military grade. Before I could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the council chamber. Emergency lights bathed everything in harsh red illumination as automated systems announced, "Priority alert." Unidentified vessels detected at system perimeter. A communications officer rushed into the chamber, her 4 legs skittering across the polished floor. "Supreme Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet. They're requesting permission to negotiate." Negotiate? Thex-Ral's voice dripped with contempt. How many ships? 1, sir. The entire council chamber erupted in laughter. 1 ship? Coming to negotiate with the entire Dominion fleet. The audacity was almost amusing. Put them on screen, Thex-Ral ordered, clearly planning to enjoy this moment of human foolishness. The main display activated, showing a human female with silver hair and an expression that somehow managed to be both professional and vaguely threatening. She wore a uniform I didn't recognize, deep blue with gold trim and insignia that suggested very high rank. "Greetings," she said in perfectly pronounced Dominion standard. "I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force. I'm here to discuss the cessation of hostilities between our species." The laughter in the chamber died quickly. How did she know our language? And more importantly, how had 1 ship made it past our orbital defense platforms without being detected? "You have some nerve, human," Thex-Ral growled. "You destroyed nearly 40 of our ships, and now you come here with a single vessel to what? Surrender?" Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a reassuring expression. "Oh no, Supreme Commander, I'm not here to surrender. I'm here to explain exactly what happens if this conflict continues." "You're threatening the Dominion? With 1 ship?" "1 ship." Chen looked genuinely confused for a moment, then glanced at something off-screen. "Oh, I see the confusion. Captain Torres, could you please decloak the rest of the fleet?" The tactical displays throughout the council chamber immediately went insane. Dozens of contacts appeared on our sensors, ships that had somehow been invisible to our most advanced detection systems. They surrounded our home world in a perfect sphere, each one larger than our biggest battlecruisers. The silence in the chamber was deafening. "Now then," Chen continued as if nothing had happened, "shall we discuss terms?" I felt my 3 hearts skip several beats as I stared at the tactical display. 47 ships, each one emitting energy signatures that made our most powerful warships look like children's toys. And they'd been sitting there, invisible, the entire time. "How long?" Thexral's voice came out as barely a whisper. "How long have you been here?" "Oh, about 6 hours now," Chen replied casually. "We wanted to observe your council session, see how you'd react to the Kepler 442 incident." I have to say, the finger-pointing was quite entertaining. They'd been listening to our private council session, our most secure facility protected by every encryption and jamming system in the Dominion arsenal, and they'd been eavesdropping like it was a public broadcast. What do you want?" Thixral asked. "Simple," Chen said. "Complete withdrawal from human space, reparations for the colonists you attempted to attack, and a formal treaty recognizing human territorial claims. And if we refuse?" Chen's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "Then we demonstrate why humans don't make idle threats." A new voice came over the communication system, male, with a slight accent I couldn't identify. "Admiral Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez aboard the Inevitable. We're detecting massive military buildup in the Altair system. Looks like they're marshalling the entire Dominion fleet." "Thank you, Captain. How many ships?" "Approximately 800 vessels, Admiral. Mix of heavy cruisers, battleships and support craft. 800 ships. The entire might of the Dominion military, gathering to face 47 human vessels. The mathematics didn't make sense. Even with their advanced technology, surely they couldn't expect to face those odds." Chen seemed to read my thoughts. "I know what you're thinking, Agent Vorthka. 800 ships against 47 doesn't seem like fair odds." She knew my name. She knew my rank. They really had been listening to everything. "You're right," she continued. "It's not fair at all. Captain Martinez, would you mind giving our Dominion friends a demonstration of the Prometheus effect?" "With pleasure, Admiral." One of the human ships, a sleek vessel about half the size of our smallest cruiser, began to glow with an energy signature I'd never seen before. The readings were off the charts, literally. Our sensors couldn't even calculate the power levels they were detecting. It's the Prometheus effect. Chen explained, her tone taking on the quality of a university lecturer. That is what happens when you convert a small amount of matter directly into energy using controlled quantum tunneling. The ship you're looking at, the USS Prometheus, is currently generating the equivalent energy output of a medium-sized star. It's a star. They were carrying the energy output of a star in a ship smaller than our destroyers. Now, Chen continued, that energy can be channeled in several ways. We can use it for propulsion, allowing us to travel at velocities approaching light speed. We can use it for defensive purposes, creating energy barriers that could stop a supernova. Or, she paused dramatically, we can use it for offensive purposes. A single focused discharge from the Prometheus could sterilize the surface of a planet from a distance of 3 light years. The blast would pass through your shields like they weren't even there, turn your atmospheric gases into plasma, and leave your world a lifeless ball of molten rock. The council chamber was so quiet you could hear individual heartbeats. 800 ships suddenly didn't seem like nearly enough. "But here's the thing," Chen said, her tone becoming almost conversational. "Humans generally prefer not to commit genocide. We find it morally objectionable and frankly bad for business. So instead, we're going to give you a choice." "What choice?" Thexral managed to croak. "Option 1, complete withdrawal from human space, formal recognition of our territorial claims, and reparations for the attempted attack on our colonies. In return, we establish trade agreements, share some of our less dangerous technologies, and everyone goes home happy." "And option 2? Chen's smile returned, colder than vacuum. "Option 2 is what we call the Total War Protocol. We systematically dismantle your entire civilization, starting with your military infrastructure and working our way down to your agricultural worlds. We don't kill your population directly, we're not monsters, but we reduce your species to a pre-spaceflight technological level and establish monitoring stations to ensure you never again pose a threat to anyone. You're bluffing, General Vakmore said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Chen gestured to something off-screen. Captain Williams, please show them the Omega Station footage. A new display appeared, showing what looked like a massive space station under construction. The scale was incredible. The thing had to be the size of a small moon. And the technology visible in its construction was clearly beyond anything the Dominion possessed. Omega Station, Chen explained, is our newest deep space construction facility. It can manufacture approximately 1,000 ships per day using automated systems and matter converters. We currently have 17 Omega stations in operation throughout human space, 17,000 ships per day. The number was so absurd it took a moment to sink in. The entire Dominion fleet could be replaced by human manufacturing capacity in less than an hour. Of course. Chen continued, we don't actually need that many ships for most purposes. The stations spend most of their time building civilian infrastructure, colonies, research facilities, terraforming equipment. But if you force us into total war protocol, all 17 stations will switch to military production. I did the math in my head. In 1 month they could build more than 500,000 warships. In a year the numbers became meaningless. This is impossible, whispered Councillor Keek Jiv. No species could possess such industrial capacity. You're thinking like conquerors, Chen replied. You see resources as things to be taken, territories as things to be claimed. Humans think differently. We see problems to be solved, challenges to be overcome. When we needed more resources, we learned to convert matter at the atomic level. When we needed more space, we learned to build habitats that could house billions. When we needed more energy, we learned to harvest it directly from stars. She leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming serious. Do you want to know the real difference between humans and the Dominion? You've been fighting the same kinds of wars for thousands of years, fleets against fleets, weapons against shields, the strong conquering the weak. We've moved beyond that. We don't fight wars anymore. We solve problems. And we're the problem? Thixral asked. You could be, Chen said simply. Or you could be part of the solution. The choice is entirely yours. The Supreme Commander looked around the council chamber at his fellow leaders. I could see the defeat in their eyes, the slow realization that everything they'd believed about human weakness had been not just wrong, but catastrophically wrong. What guarantee do we have, Thixral asked slowly, that you won't simply destroy us once we withdraw? None, Chen replied bluntly, except for one thing: it wouldn't serve our purposes. Humans prefer trading partners to graves. A peaceful Dominion that recognizes our territorial rights is far more valuable to us than a sterilized collection of dead worlds. And our fleet at Altair will be allowed to withdraw unmolested, provided they do so within the next 48 hours. After that, we'll be forced to interpret their presence as a continued act of aggression. Thixral was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical display showing the human ships surrounding our homeworld. Finally he spoke. The Dominion accepts your terms. And just like that, the war was over. Not with a massive battle or a heroic last stand, but with the simple acknowledgement that we were completely, utterly outmatched. As the council session ended and the various commanders filed out to begin the withdrawal process, I remained behind, still staring at the displays showing human technology that made our greatest achievements look like cave paintings. Admiral Chen's image was still on the main screen, apparently waiting for something. Agent Vorth K, she said, addressing me directly. A moment of your time? Yes, Admiral. You're wondering how we knew so much about your operations, aren't you? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The answer is simple. We've been monitoring your communications for the better part of a decade. Your encryption systems, while impressive by your standards, were cracked by our artificial intelligence networks approximately 6 years ago. Artificial intelligence? Of course. We'd theorized about such things but never managed to create truly sentient machines. Humans had apparently solved that problem too. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because someone needs to help your people understand what they've encountered here today. This wasn't a victory for humanity, Agent Vorth, it was a teaching moment. You declared war on a species that had moved beyond war. You threatened people who had learned to solve problems you can't even comprehend." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "But here's the thing about humans: we remember who our friends are, and we reward cooperation. The Dominion could have a very bright future ahead of it if you're willing to learn." "Learn what?" "That the universe is big enough for everyone, Agent Vorth, and that some problems are better solved together than apart." The transmission ended, leaving me alone in the empty council chamber with my thoughts and the humbling realization that my species had just received the most valuable lesson in our history. We'd declared war on humanity, expecting easy conquest. Instead, we'd been given a masterclass in why some wars should never be fought. And somehow, impossibly, we'd come out of it better than we went in. The humans, it seemed, were full of surprises.